Good evening all, this is Mariela Bustamante. I am a student from the UTPL. The present video has been prepared for the subject English syntax. The topic is role of syntax in discourse. Well, first of all, I would like to talking about the most important details of, to recognize what is the context difference between aspect, tense, and voice. For example, when we are talking about aspect, and the exactly things about the simple aspect, we need to know the simple aspect may be combined with the past and present tense and the future modality to form three useful patterns. The simple past, present, and future, for example, we have the simple past, the simple present, the simple future. The simple past indicate complete event that happened before that the present. For example, the student was early to Monday class. Now, for example, the simple present, what is the meaning about that? The present simple indicate fact and truth. For example, students are often the first in the class. The next one is the simple future. The simple future shows you the event that will be complete after the present. So we are talking will be not for now, will be in the future. For example, one of the example I have is the student will arrive today later than usual. Now I have a few important details. It's important you can know a little bit about that. For example, the form, the simple past aspect. A student must follow the following rules. Add the suffix ed to the end of the verb. For example, look, what is exactly when we apply this specific rule, what I have to say? Look. If the verb already ends in e, the simple add d, how will we are supposed to apply? For example, in this exactly verb, perceive. So the last letter will be Z. In the verb end, in the exactly letter, for example, in the verb end, we will be using the Y. The simple delete the Y and add IEZ. For example, we can say play, or in this case, we can say play. In this case, we have the future verb is irregular. When the future verb is irregular, learn its pattern individually. For example, what is the verb? Break. How we can change this to a simple past, broke. Now I have a few important details do you need to know about how we can classify or how we can change any, for example, a sentence to the simple present. To form this simple present aspect, the student must follow the following rules. For third person singular subject, the he, she, it, we need only to add the suffix s to the end to the verb. For example, when we say learn, play or something, work, we only need to add the letter S. For example, he learned, she's learned. For first and second person singular subject, we are talking about I, you, we, and third person plural subject. In this case, they do not make any change to the verb. Always you have to continue with the same thing. I learn, they learn. So we don't have to add anything. That's why one of the rules explain this is a simple present. We don't need to do most of the time too many changes in this specific one. Now the simple future. The simple future rule need to learning, for example, how we can apply this. Most of the time, we need to add a modal verb such as will to the beginning of the verb phrase. For example, I ate. I will be. Oh, I'm sorry. I eat. I will eat. Now let me continue with the other part, the progressive aspect. The progressive the progressive aspect also has function that help us a lot. So we can say this is a very important syntax rule because in general terms, this helps to us to create a progressive sentence in general to express a period of time between two often under undefined points, undefined points. For example, was reading is the past. Is reading, we are talking about the present. Will be reading, obviously, is the future. So we are talking in any about this aspect in different times. For example, past, present, and future. For example, you can get some idea to catch in a better way about the progressive aspect in this specific and short definition. The past progressive express continuous past events often in relation to another event. Example, the student was reading when the phone rang. The next one, we are talking about the present. The present progressive. The present progressive express often temporary events which are still ongoing, so still running. The student is reading every day. For example, I am talking right now in the video, so I am talking about what I am doing at this time. Now, the future progressives express events which are predicted to continue for a period of time. So it's talking about the progressive time that will be happening in the future. For example, the student will be reading the same book next week. For example, we will have another option. We will have maybe the same subject or the same assignment the next week. Maybe I will be the next semester. Maybe for me it's done because I will be almost complete. I will be almost complete this subject, but obviously this will be part of the the assignment for the next student from the next semester. Now I have a few progressive aspects the student need to follow to create a proper progressive aspect in the syntax rules. For example, when we are talking about the past, use was, were, plus a present participle, a verb with an ing suffix. So now I will be talking about the present progressive. The form the present use am, is, are. So this is the most specific thing we are using plus the present participle. And the future progressive always use the modal verb plus V plus a present participle. Now I will be talking about the perfect aspect. And the perfect aspect is classified we have three kind of perfect aspect. For example, one of them is the past perfect, the present perfect, the future perfect. And the past perfect, most students has finished only 5 questions when the time ran out. So in this, obviously, in this position, in this sentence, it's talking about the student, what happened in the past, right? And the past perfect details even that were completed in the past before other events. So it's talking in the same time about 2 different situations. What happened about they finished, but in the other side, it's out to the time. Now, the other option, we will be talking about the present perfect. The student has reading only 3 essays in total in this month. In this position, this present perfect detail events which began in the past but are still relevant to the present. So it's still important right now because we are still talking about that because it's happening. The next one, the future perfect, the student will have completed 6 assignments by the end of the semester. The future perfect detail even which will be completed between now and the future point. So in the future, so it's talking about what is coming, and also it's coming about a little bit more in advance about the semester, for example. Another important point to recognize how we can identify the perfect aspect, we need to pay attention about how we can use the had plus a participle, a verb with an, ed, and suffix to form the past. In the other option, use have, has, plus a past participle to form the present. And finally, we already know most of the time we're using the modal verb plus have plus a past participle to form the future, so to create the future perfect. Well, now we will be continuing with the perfect progressive aspect. The past perfect progressive detail even which started and ended in the past and which continued over a period of time. Example, the teacher had been reading for 30 minutes when the bell rang. The present perfect progressive detail even which started in the past but continue into and have relevance to the present. Example, the teacher has been reading for 2 hours without a break. For example, like another example, I can say, Daniel has been talking for 2 hours with his teacher, I'm sorry. The another option, future perfect progressive. The future perfect progressive details, even which are expected to continue up to a specific point in the future. Example, the teacher will have been reading the same book for 2 hours. Now, so I will be let you know a few important details to take in account. For example, use had, have, plus being, a present participle, a verb with the last 3 letters eng suffix to form the past. So in this position, how we can create a past perfect progressive? Obviously, we need to use always the eng in the word to create or to form the past. In the other side, the present perfect progressive, what we have to do, we have to use the have, has, plus the being, plus a present participle to form or to create the present progressive. Finally, use the modal verb for the future perfect progressive. It's important. Plus, we have to use the have, plus being, plus a past participle to form the future. Now I will be talking about the tense, past, present, and future. For example, the past tense. The past tense is used to indicate that an event has already happened. There are 4 kinds of past tense in the English language, and they are the following. First of all, past simple, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. For example, the past simple tense is used to show that a completed action took place at a particular time in the past. The past continuous, past tense, also known as the past progressive tense, which is used to show that an ongoing action was happening at some point in the past. For example, I was studying. In the previous one, the past simple, I studied. Now we will be continuing with the past perfect. The perfect past tense, also known as the pluperfect, and we use it to tell about something that happened before something also is in the past. I have studied. And finally, the past perfect continuous. It's used when discussing an action that started in the past and continued up until another time in the past. I have been studying. Now we will be talking about the present tense. The present tense is a type of tense which indicate that an action is happening right now or at the present moment. The present tense has 4 different variations, which are the simple present tense, the present continuous tense, the present perfect tense, and finally the present perfect continuous tense. For example, the simple present tense. This is used when events happen continually over a time in the present. I work in Italy and study in the UTPL. The present continuous tense is used to describe an ongoing action that is happening right now, which is in progress or hasn't been completed. For example, it is snowing. It is playing. No, Louis is playing. The present perfect tense is used for repeat an action that began in the past but are not finished yet. For example, they have come a long way. The present perfect continuous tense or present progressive, that's the another name, how we know about that. That express when it's something, it's like the tense is a way to convey any action or condition that is happening right now and maybe ongoing. Example, I haven't been feeling well lately. I am still sick now. The future tense is a verb tense which describe an action that are going to take place in the future. The present tense has 4 different variations, which are simple future tense, future perfect tense, future perfect continuous, and future continuous. For example, the simple future tense is, as the name suggests, the future tense is in its most basic form. It's used to talk about things that haven't happened yet and are going to happen at some point in the future. Example, I will go to the stadium tomorrow. Future perfect tense. The future perfect tense use the phrase will have to indicate that task will be finished before another one begin. Example, it'll have finished when you arrive. Future perfect continue. The future perfect continue also sometimes call it also is another name. The future perfect progressive. It's a verb tense that describes an action that will be continue up until a point in the future. Example, in September, I will be has been working at my company for 4 years. The future continuous. The future continuous tense describe things that will continue to take place over the time. I will be eating lunch in the dining room. The voice, the active voice is a term used to classify sentence in which the subject of the sentence is the one actively performing the action of the verb. For example, Mary compliments Sagdiel. Mary is the subject, performs the verb. The verb. Sagdiel, the object, who's received the action. Middle voice. The subject is part of all of the action. In other words, the subject is both the cause and the focus, the agent and experience of a verbal action. I go for myself is one of the examples. Passive voice. The passive voice is when the subject of a sentence receives the action of the verb rather than performing the action. Example, Sagdiel was complimented by Mary. Sagdiel is the object, come first, obviously, but Sagdiel isn't performing the action because Mary is is the important part of the action because it's the action who's described. It's happening with Sagdiel or the compliment to Sagdiel. So thank you so much to be here. Right now, this is my reference. If you need additional information about the topic, you can get some information in in the different reference. Thank you so much and see you soon.